Hi everyone. In today's lesson, we're going to talk more about factoring methods. So obviously, we're going to always try GCF first. After greatest common factor, we may have an expression that has three terms. Now, when we have three terms, there's actually two types of factoring. We can use AM, which stands for add, multiply, and we also could use something called the AC method or the guess and test method. AC doesn't really stand for anything. I'll explain what it means later on. But these are the two methods that we can use when factoring trinomials. We use AM when the leading coefficient is equal to 1, and we use this AC method when the leading coefficient is greater than 1. So I'm going to do an example of each. Okay, so we're going to do examples of the AM method. So example number 1, we have x squared plus 2x minus 80. Now we can use the add multiply method because the leading coefficient or the number in front of the x squared is 1. So again, we're going to use this method of add multiply when the leading coefficient, I'm going to say leading coefficient is LC, when the leading coefficient is 1. So what the add multiply method is we need to figure out what two numbers add a to 2 and multiply m to negative 80. So we need to use the calculator to help us. We can go to the y equals and type in negative 80 divided by x. This will give us the factors or the things that multiply to give us negative 80. So go ahead and pause the video, type that in, and then let's fill out the chart of the factors. And then hit resume when you're ready. Okay, so you should get 1 and negative 80, 2 and negative 40, 4 and negative 20, 5 and 16, or negative 16, 8 and negative 10. And that's honestly about it as far as the factors go. But what you have to understand is that you're multiplying to a negative number, right? Negative 80. So you have a positive times a negative gives me a negative. So you could also have a negative 1 and a positive 80, a 2, negative 2, and a positive 40, negative 4 and positive 20, negative 5 and positive 16, and negative 8 and positive 10. So the way you could get that is if you just kept scrolling up from 1 on your chart, and then you could see the negatives as well. So what we're looking for is a pair of numbers that will add to 2. So the best way to do it is honestly just to look at them and see which numbers differ by 2. So ignore the negative. Notice how 8 and 10 are 2 units apart. 8 and 10 here are 2 units apart. So that's probably my answer. We just have to figure out which one adds to a positive 2. So now this is where I'd go back to the calculator and I would see, okay, what is 8 plus negative 10? So if you did that, 8 plus negative 10, you'd get negative 2. And then if you did negative 8 plus 10, you'd get a positive 2. So this is actually the pair that you want. And the way AM works so easy is all you have to do is x and x in the first parenthesis, and then minus 8 and plus 10. Where I got those from is this negative 8 and this positive 10. And that's it. This is your final answer. All right, let's try another one. Number 2. So factor 2x squared plus 22x plus 48. So first thing we always have to do is check for GCF. So if you look at these three terms, it looks like they're all divisible by 2. So make sure you're always checking for GCF first. So we're going to divide out each piece by 2. So 2x squared divided by 2, these cancel. We're left with x squared. 22 divided by 2 is 11x, and 48 divided by 2 is 24. So now on the inside, we have a trinomial. Trinomial means 3 terms. So we need to figure out what numbers add to 11 that multiply to 24. Again, we can use add multiply because the leading coefficient of this trinomial is 1. So we're going to go back to the calculator and we're going to do 24 divided by x. So go ahead, do that, get the table of values, and then hit resume when you're ready. So you should be getting 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6. But you have to remember that you're multiplying to a positive number. So you could also have two negatives. So a -1, a -24, a -2, a -12, a -3, a -8, and a -4 or a -6. So on this list, we're looking for a pair of numbers that will add to +11. So I see it right here. 3 plus 8 will add to 11. So again, all we have to do is two parentheses, x and x in the front, and 3 plus 8 is 11, so we're going to do x plus 3, x plus 8, with a 2 in front was my GCF. So the methods that we used here were GCF and then add, multiply. All right, let's do another example. We'll call this example number 3. So we've got 5x squared plus 12x plus 7. So first things first, we're always going to check for that GCF. So we've got 5 and 12 and 7. Well, I could divide 12 by 2, but 5 and 7 are odd numbers, so I don't think there's a common number that's going to be found here. So this leads me in a different position because notice the leading coefficient is greater than 1. It's 5. So we must have a different method of solving. We're going to call this the AC method. And the reason why we call it the AC method is because all quadratics are in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So 5x squared, 5 is the a, bx, b is the 12, and c is 7. So the way the AC method works is step 1. We multiply a and c. So first term and last term. So the a and the c is where we get our name. So we multiply the first term and the last term. And 5 times 7 is 35, and x squared we just tack on. So after we multiply the first and the last term, then we're going to find those factors. So we're finding the factors. So now it's literally the same thing as AM, except now we're multiplying to this number, but still adding to this number. So instead of add multiply, it's add multiply, right? So same concept. So let's find the factors of 35x squared. So I'm going to put them over here. So y equals 35 divided by x. This is what we're going to put in our calculators. But what we're doing is we're finding the factors of 35x squared. We know we can't put x's into the calculator, so we're just going to do 35 divided by x. So if you do that, you should get 1 and 35, and then 5 and 7. And since we're multiplying to a net positive number, you also could have -1 and -35, and -5 and -7. But what we have to know now is since we're multiplying to 35x squared, 1 and 35 only multiply to 35. So we need to account for this x squared. So we're just going to have to note and make in our chart 1x and 35x, 5x and 7x, 1x and 35x, right? X times x will give us the x squared. That way, when I ask you which pair adds to 12x, we have the x already there. So let's look at it. I think this is the pair that I want. So 5x plus 7x is exactly 12x. And 5 times 7 is 35. X times x is x squared. So once we find our factors, we are going to replace the middle. So replace middle term with factors. So this 12x is absolutely equivalent to 5x plus 7x. So we're just going to replace the middle with that. So 5x plus 7x is 12x. We're basically rewriting it. And then you literally bring down all the other terms. So 5x squared plus, and then plus 7. So once you bring down all of the other terms, we're at step 4. So bring down first and last, and then factor by grouping, and we're done. So my grouping, why am I doing that? Is because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So how does grouping work? We group the first two terms, we group the second two terms, and we bring down the sign in the middle. So we could see here the GCF between these two is 5 and then an x because we have that lowest exponent, so 5x. And when we divide them out, we get 5x squared divided by 5x. The 5's will cancel. The x's will reduce to 1, or 1x. And then 5x divided by 5x. Remember, anything divided by itself is 1. It doesn't just cancel. Same thing here. 7x divided plus 7. The GCF is 7. So we're going to do our dividing. 7 divided by 7. These 7's will cancel. We're left with x. And over here, 7 divided by 7, the answer is 1. And then if we remember, x plus 1's in the parentheses must be the same. If they're not the same, you did something wrong. And that's our other GCF. We're going to take out an x plus 1, and we're going to divide this by x plus 1. So these cancel. We're left with 5x. This term divided by this term, the x plus 1's will cancel, and we're left with 7. So this is our final answer. If you need the steps to write it, absolutely can. You can write out the GCFs underneath here and underneath here to get that final answer. But that's the idea for AC method. You're still adding to the middle term, except now we're multiplying to the product. All right, so we find the factors by adding a little bit of an x there. 5 times 7, 35. X plus x is x, right? So that's why we split the middle this way. And that's it. If you have any questions, now's a good time to jot them down, and we will see you in class tomorrow.